Why is forgiveness important? Why does it make the difference between a smooth life, a comfortable life, and a chaotic and vicious life? We literally can't count the ways. What I can tell you is you can feel better just by focusing on forgiveness for a short time. You don't have to reach a conclusion. You don't have to forgive the world, his wife and his brother-in-law. You certainly don't have to condone any crimes or acts of depravity. Just think forgiving thoughts for a moment or two. And your physiology will become more comfortable. That's all it takes. The scientific evidence is clear. If you think of something which makes you angry, your heartbeat will change within a fraction of a second to jagged and uncomfortable. If you think of a newborn baby, it becomes a slower, soft wave. Anger makes you hard and rigid, as bodies go when they're dead. Softness and calmness is more conducive to life. Anything can be accomplished when we have a calm mind. Becoming your authentic self means willingness to let go of what other people think. But it's hard to let go of what other people think about you when your mind is dominated by hurtful thoughts about other people. My journey of forgiveness has been magical, and I want to share some of that healing with my own audience, and hopefully with a wider audience. My story and the journey experienced when using these resources will demonstrate that we need both positive and negative energy in our world. The balance between positive and negative energy is what keeps us all going. The magnetic force of the world in motion. Two magnets explaining the force of nature, the power which exists between the positive and the negative, and the way in which they hold us together, creating momentous adventures. If more than half of my experiences are positive, then I think I'm doing extremely well, and I feel satisfied most of the time. I'm also happy with around 50% negative stuff happening to me, because it helps me to feel good about the good stuff. If all our days were sunny and bright, how would we ever appreciate the beauty of a sunny day? There were a number of significant events in my early life revolving around the theme of forgiveness. And the first was my relationship with my mother. She was never able to forgive my father for leaving her, and drove a strong wedge between him and I. There was a deep personality clash between my mother and I. Our relationship set our nerves on edge. I held a grudge for longer than I realised, and my mother definitely found it hard to forgive me. My extrovert mother could never get her head around the fact that as a child I was extremely shy. This was the 70s. The treatment for social anxiety in those days was exposure. Basically, they would take the situation which most terrified the person and make them do it. I was terrified of public speaking, so they would put me in the school debate group and made me argue certain viewpoints in a very public arena. A massively significant event in my life was when I was asked to argue the case against forgiveness. It was then that I realised that forgiveness itself was one of my core values. Everything I do revolves around forgiveness. I believed then, and I still do, that the key to happiness is forgiving the people who hurt you as quickly as possible, and forgiving yourself for hurting yourself, and moving on. I'd been raped as a teenager, and I was given my first opportunity to appear on television on a programme called Brass Tacks, in the early 80s to confront the convict and discuss how I felt about what had happened. I very publicly stated that I forgave him and that the experience of having been raped had made me a more passionate and compassionate person. Following on from this, I also confronted the person who had abused me when I was a child. I was very naive, and I still believe that if I told him exactly how the experience had made me feel, all the effects on my life, as well as the other people his actions had affected through my life, such as my husband and my daughter, I truly believed that if I said all this to him, he would never abuse anyone else. I said I forgave him for what he'd done to me, but I could never forgive him if he did it again. I told him that if he did, I would go straight to the police and I would tell them exactly what he'd done to me. Unfortunately, he didn't care, and he went on to rape his son and daughter. I went to the police, and he went to prison. I then couldn't forgive myself for my naivety, and thought that I was to blame for all his crimes against other people. It had been really easy for me to forgive the offender for abusing me, but it would be a great many years before I could forgive myself for the fact that he went on to abuse his children. Putting the past in the past has been a journey on which I progress a little farther every day. A daily reflection routine is beneficial for everyone, and forgiveness can slot effortlessly into your routine. At night, I ask myself, who do I need to forgive, and what can I forgive myself for? I spend a little time with these questions. And it helps me to clear the thoughts from my mind so that I can sleep more peacefully. I am blessed with a loving family who all have a great sense of humour, and all those alive today love me for me, the person I want to be. I'm free. I'm not defined, confined, or even much influenced by my past negative experiences. My childhood memories are not confined to abuse. My teenage memories are not solely about being raped. I spent much of my childhood and teens playing in open countryside, climbing trees, and reading enchanting books which feed my joy to this day. One moment on this earth is worth millions. How do I know this? Well, if I offered you 20 million now to shoot yourself in the head right this second, would you do it? My guess is that you wouldn't. But if you would, just stay with me for a bit longer, and I hope I can help with that. Holding on is believing that there is only a past. Letting go is knowing that there's a future. Daphne Rose Kingman.